Namhlanje, we've got our Woman Thrive segment, and I've got Babes Wear Health and Wellness this afternoon. Joining us, Kamalami Nguzodwa Msimankansi Bande. Ngiyakubingelela Nkosazane Magule.
Ninja unjani kodwa sizodwa angithi usuthenga ikizo sizodwa manje.
Siyaphila ntomkhulu.
Sisomkhulu, yep, sisomkhulu. Ngiyabonga kakhulu. Thank you so much for having me on today. I was not going to say no to you guys. No ways. You guys are my family. I love you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And we do know that you're actually quite busy. Ngoba siyazi ukuthi udokotela, not just another doctor, but udokotela on a passion, you know, who wants to make sure that South Africa, Africa thrives, you know. So we really appreciate Dr. Tshidi Gule. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome if you're watching us live on Facebook. She is the medical director of Gule. And of course, you must be trained in the Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery. And also she's got a diploma in business management. New venture creation. Babes who have no wellness. Babes who entrepreneurship. You know, zikhona zonke lezi zinto la konke kuhlangene. Tshidi, okay, let's start with the name. Yes. So what does it mean?
It actually means, this is probably part of the best part of my story. Ubaba gave me my name, Matsiriso. Tutsirisa is to comfort. So it means tutuzile if you translate it directly into isiZulu, which is to comfort. And interestingly enough, then my destiny becomes a destiny of comforting and healing. So I'm where I'm meant to be.
Yeah. Names are prophetic by their very nature.
Always.
But you are doing well.
Thank you so much.
All right. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Just a background. I know the girl comes from eSekhawini.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Ngiphume eSekhawini, so ngizalelwe eSekhawini to parents uMam Gule to Gule, uBaba Mangisi Gule. I wouldn't say a naughty kid. I think I was a curious kid. Ubudwami will tell you, my big brother, you know, as a young kid, I was always curious. Whatever they were doing, abafana, I wanted to do it. Whatever the girls were doing, I wanted to do it. I'm so glad ukuthi ngikhulele in a family that encouraged me to explore my world exactly as I was. They didn't try and shape me into no intombazane fanele yenze nje. And to have grown up in a household like that, I think it allowed me to always think outside the box. I didn't realize, I think, at that age. Yeah. But by the time I told them when I was 13, they knew as parents, it was because of this curious thing. It wasn't because I've got pressure. I was just that child. And I fell in love with science that young. There used to be an encyclopedia that Abazali Bami used to sell. I think they were called My World. I don't know if you guys even remember those days. And we had a volume, ekaya, and it would sit with room divider. And I used to just be that kid that's sitting there. I didn't know even English at that point, but I was just like, this world is fascinating. What's happening here?
Yes.
So by the time I went to school, so some people don't know this. Before I went to so-called Model C and multiracial schools, and then the teachers at Kapozini called in my parents and said, we think she needs to go to another school because ngati uzohlupha. And that's how I ended up then going to Model C schools and getting sort of the more Western education, because I think I showed that kind of curiosity and adventure, and it just felt like people wanted to nurture it. And I'm forever grateful, Guti. I grew up in a community that didn't try and change what I was becoming.
Yeah, absolutely important. And but did you even play amagenda and amagalopa? You know,
umagalopa. Lalel Hazel 1, yabo Hazel 1, Hazel 2, Hazel. I was this short, but one marbles. Yeah, marbles. I was collecting.
All right.
Abafana, I used to call my name by my first name. I was that good. And then I obviously loved Umagalopa no 13. Aw 13 ngisho ngangakwazi ukushaya abantu. So ngangilokho ngigeja mangizama ukushaya umuntu. So I wasn't picked a lot for the teams for 13. But I loved it anyways. It was fine. As long as I was in the mix during playtime, we must play. And I've got the scars for it. You know, I always say to people, we get so shy as kids from the township from all the scars we had from playing rough. Mina, I'm not shy. My body, I always say my body has natural tattoos about how much fun I had as a child. I had so much fun.
I love that, but I mean, I suspect because you know the type that would be looking at encyclopedias. You know when you have to jump.
No, girl. I was there. Hey, in my time, I was fit. In my time, girl.
Okay. So you were there to front line. All right. So coming back to the name Gule, what is that? Where does that come from? What inspired the name?
One, it was obviously a legacy to my parents. I think when I got invited to be a chief medical officer in the company, I insisted because a lot of the reason I think I got invited to join this team was because of the work that I'd done in my company, Medispace. And the world has changed a lot, obviously, in 2020. And part of what we'd always said is we want to proudly carry the name of the legacies we want to create. So when I was asked to join, I had conditions. And one of the conditions, I said, listen, I want the representation of everybody who's contributing to healthcare in this team. You know, if I'm going to champion the medical strategy and the medical direction, it must champion the entire representation of the people who've invested their intelligence in it. So I'm very grateful that the partners and the people that hired me were very, very willing to do that. So Gule is 3 surnames basically meshed into one name.
3 surnames meshed into
3 surnames.
I get it now. All right. So
I'm not allowed to reveal the other surnames.
Okay, it's okay. You know, the girl can always find out. I'll be WhatsApping after this and say, hey. All right, so you guys focus on health advisory, education, in intelligence. So I saw something. There's a term that as I was reading about you. There's a term called presenterism. I was like, okay,
yes.
This is interesting.
You know, Zotto, I think one of the most interesting things about having worked in healthcare now for 15 years is that I still find myself mainly educating people about what health and wellness really is at work, at home, in our daily lives. I think my biggest job is reminding human beings why they matter to themselves and how that helps them continue to run their lives in a way that ensures that they succeed, but also enjoy the fruits of their labor. One of the biggest problems we have right now with companies and corporate wellness, so to speak, is that a lot of human beings aren't owning up to the reality of their challenges and struggles, because life or the culture in the workplace is sort yourself out after hours, you come to work, correct, you're not allowed to cry at work, you're not allowed to talk about your problems at work, you just need to show up. And because of that culture, we see a lot of things as doctors inside the workplace that ends up going wrong. It affects performance, it affects productivity. One of these things is presenterism. Any presenterism in a nutshell is when someone is at work physically, the body is there, but the desire to perform and do the work is not. And I think so many people forget that, especially for jobs where you are required to do administrative work, strategic work, analytical work, which is a lot of sectors.
Yes.
Your brain has to be clear. In order for you to produce a task, your mind has to be clear. If you just think about it in your own life, when you walk at work and you are struggling with something intense in your personal life, your concentration is different.
Yes.
Your ability to manage people and talk to people and communicate with people is different. Most of us, when we're not in a good space, we don't even want to talk to anyone. We just want to be in our office and deal with ourselves. So a lot of the time, people choose not to, you know, when they're not well, they choose not to, log in sick because they're worried about sick leave and all of that. So they come to work when they're not functioning, as I say, when they're in distress. They still come to work and then they don't perform, and then they get into trouble with their HR bosses and supervisors in disciplinary hearings because it shows up. You can tell when someone is not themselves by the quality of the work they produce.
Absolutely.
So as you were asking, presenteeism is when people are physically at work, but they're not performing at the quality that they usually do. They're just there because and they're scared. Unfortunately, it's a big culture because people don't feel they have permission to make sure that they are okay, as well as giving their best emsebenzini. And the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, the two go hand in hand. All right. So I would imagine then that, after what we've gone through, we're still going through with the pandemic, and there's a lot of burnout, there's a lot of even mental stress. There's a lot that people are going through. So as Uli Gule, what sort of course you advise mostly corporates?
Yes.
And
sure.
What has been the intervention?
Well, for the last 15 years, irrespective of which company I've been in, I've always championed the health of the individual. So over the years, we've been very fortunate that I've been at the forefront of creating models that really work and succeed in companies. The first thing is understanding what makes a company great, as I say. People think that in order for a company to work, people just have to show up to work. That doesn't guarantee you a bottom line that is sustainable. Your team has got to be really switched on to the task and switched on to the vision. And wellness is not just about, do you have high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart attacks? It's, are you showing up at your best, or are there things that are happening in your life that are stopping you from performing? So wellness in the workplace for us has always been about creating solutions that help the individual navigate life in a way that teaches them how to cope, right, with challenges in life, because we're not all taught how to manage stress, whether it's stress from home, whether it's stress from work, whether it's us going through difficult things. We are not aware that we need health services until we are being threatened or we're about to lose it. So whether it's physical health, whether it's mental health, most of us don't engage doctors, psychologists, dietitians, whatever, when we're well. We don't want to hear it. But the minute we're in trouble, what you want is people who are there, who are on standby, who care, who can hold your confidence, who can guide you on how to get to the other side, and then teach you things that are going to help you long-term in looking after yourself better. So in a nutshell, we have different solutions that we offer companies and we've done so over the years successfully. One of our solutions was in-house care. Some companies are very big and they actually need 24/7 medical care. And we had an in-house solution where we actually had doctors inside the company looking after them. And then the advisory, obviously during COVID, because we haven't been able to see people face to face, has been very helpful. So I've educated a lot of companies. I've had the privilege of hosting webinars on mental health. For example, you were talking about that. Burnout was a big issue and still is a big issue right now as we close the year during COVID. And a lot of companies have been really grateful to be able to get a trusted voice to come in and get their employees to become more familiar with the language of I'm not okay. And then get help for it in a way that is not just practical and accessible, but in a way that really makes them feel like they are cared for. And the new word that a lot of companies have been learning this year, more than any other year, is care. What does care look like? Yeah. Why is it effective? How does it help the company move forward? But I think the biggest work I've done, to be honest, Soto, I think over the last 6 months is really work with leaders in terms of recovery strategies. COVID changed so many things. Businesses shut down, big businesses shut down. I myself also, went through a lot of struggle when it came to the business side of things. And leaders don't get help because everybody thinks that leaders know what to do to sort out their stress levels, to sort out the burnout. But the heroes of these companies have been the ones that have been taking the most stress. And, we've had an executive wellness program for many years, but I've never seen it needed as much as it was this year. And to be able to have the honor to manage leaders you respect from companies you've watched for many years, because they have just taken on too much and they are really struggling. We've had leaders have heart attacks in the last 6 months. People don't know this. We've had leaders have strokes. Why? Because most leaders, when they need help, their biggest fear is, I'm going to get judged for it. If I go to this person, are they going to sort me out? But most leaders also have just been focusing so much on keeping the company alive that they've had to put their health last. And so it's taking its toll. I think my biggest job at the end of the day is I'm a fixer and I'm an educator. And the solutions that we've created for the workplace have really helped fix problems. For example, if there's a crisis, if there's a COVID outbreak in a company, my job is to sort that whole thing out, from the quarantine to isolation to returning to work, and give people this trusted space of recovery. And then, of course, to go to the boardrooms and give strategies that can protect companies from having to face bigger disasters when it comes to managing their people. So in a nutshell, at Gule, we manage people, and we manage people with the companies and the leaders.
Yeah. All right, that's a mouthful. Shame.
I talk a lot.
I'm one of those.
Yeah. I know. Like, nobody looks after the heroes, man. It's not right. It's not right.
This is about strong.
It's about strong, Ganjan.
So, but now, as you are talking, as you are explaining, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, SMMEs, these are the people that actually are, an important part of our economy, and yet they do not necessarily have the budget to get a Gule on board to assist them with this kind of advice. So what are the basic things that small businesses we can look into?
Wonderful. I'm really glad you asked, because one of the things we're very sensitive to in this company, especially when COVID hit, was we wanted to be able to speak to all sizes in terms of company owners. One, you don't need the full bouquet. I always say to people, what most leaders need is the knowledge. And the knowledge is packaged in different ways. I'll give you an example. Restaurant owners, for example, are currently struggling. I don't know if you've seen what we've been seeing. Because I think there's such a desperation to make the money back, a lot of them have not been complying with the regulations, and they're not aware that the rules and regulations from the Department of Labor are going to come to hit them very soon. And one of the biggest ways you are able to help as a medical team is, firstly, from the start, most leaders have only literally downloaded the protocols. I just want to give an example of how we play a role that is effective for companies of all sizes. Most people don't read health stuff. They just download it. They're like, okay, and then they assign someone, when are you going to be the health and safety officer? You must just tick every day. They do the barest minimum, and then they don't realize that there's consequences like medical negligence. There's consequences when you don't show that you have taken every precaution to protect other people's lives. You can get sued for medical negligence. COVID-19 has kind of sharpened the conversation of there are consequences when you take shortcuts. So when you have a medical advisor on board, for example, a small business, it's very simple for us to create a solution where you've got someone on standby. When you're not sure of anything, you need a specialist basically on standby. Say, Dr. G, these protocols have, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, am I good? So for most SMMEs, I'm that person. I'm the sounding board of, you're good. If an inspector comes, you're going to be fine. Some people just want that, and then they don't need you to be there in their business every day. And that's 2-5 hours max. Yeah. Right? There's a budget for that. And trust me, I always say to people, if you've got a budget for transport, you've got a budget for a doctor. If you've got budget to buy food, you've got a budget for health, because health is the new language of the new normal. That's the reality. No business is actually going to get away from this. We've got 3 years, guys, at the very least with COVID, in terms of it coming in and out of what we call resurgence and waves. And so most businesses are starting to realize that they might try and cash in now during festive season. I've been hearing stuff like that. But the long haul, the long-term picture, you've got to be a smarter leader. And you want people who know the regulations, who know the law, and who know how you can still make money in your business without spending too much money on things you didn't budget for. And I also I'd like to correct this notion people have that, oh, going the route of PPE, social distancing is more expensive. It's not. think of the longevity of your business. You know, when we do our risk strategies with a lot of our business owners, most of them are thinking, I need to make the money back. And I always ask them this question: where are you going to be in 2-3 years' time? If you focus on the next 3 months, what kind of business are you going to have in 3 years' time? And it's about redesigning the business so that it survives the long-term struggle as much as it must survive the now.
Okay, design the strategies such that you survive the long-term struggle. Okay, you're talking to me here, so I'm listening. Dr. G on the dial, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so you mentioned that you've been doing this almost like for the past 15 years. And I'm like, what keeps you going? Because you seem to always have energy for this thing. You know, I was looking at your YouTube and I'm like, hey, always just roll. Yeah.
I love people. So I'm going to start at probably the fundamental core of, I think, who I am. I don't think I could change that about myself. There are days where I don't want to hang out with people, but in a nutshell, I genuinely love what I do, and I think I was called to heal. You know, I think there are certain jobs that choose you. You don't choose them. But also I have a really serious passion for making sure that we have a Black legacy. You know, for me, as a young child, when democracy happened, I was 12 in 1994. For me, it was a completely different unfolding. One, my entire world of possibilities opened around the same time. As a young child, I could dream bigger. I could think of being a doctor, going to institutions that usually would be impossible to get into. I got to get the privilege of walking the journey of living a dream. And for me, medicine was my dream. And the second part of that for me was, what am I going to do with that privilege? So I think when the entrepreneur in me got born, I always knew I wanted to make healthcare accessible to Black people. I wanted to break it down. I always joke that for me, healthcare is the 12th official language in South Africa. It's a language. But most of us don't engage medicine because we think, oh, you go to hospital to die. You know, most people, that was the initial thing. I remember even when I was doing internship in KZN, one of the biggest things I always had to face was people just saying, I don't want to come and see you and check on my blood pressure because I don't like hospitals. And really educating people on the power of living healthier and why it's important and why you need to know what tablets you're taking and why you need to manage yourself differently, and giving people what I call the future. You know, as a doctor, I learned that we are very powerful voices when we use our voices to empower our own about understanding health. And healthcare is mostly about looking after yourself. It's not about fixing you once you are broken. But because most people only come for help once they're broken, it's been a very interesting journey for me to become someone who plays in a space that teaches about preventative health. And that's why I think I always have energy. There's always someone who enjoys listening to understanding why it matters. And they have an aha moment when they listen to a doctor or papile. I mean, I'm very passionate about healthcare. And I think that's the first thing people are shocked by, like, oh, she talks, you know, in interviews, I'm myself. And that was a big thing for me, was to not try and create an image, an idea of someone I'm not. I grew up in a household that encouraged us to talk. I grew up in a household that encouraged us to communicate with each other and to debate topics. So wellness, I think, Mina, fits me perfectly because I mainly play a role on inspiring people to action. And so when I see my own clients come back to me and say, oh my gosh, I hated listening to you back in 2000 and whatever, but you know what, I actually made those changes and I haven't had sugar problems and these problems for the last 8 years. That's a victory for me because we're not born to suffer. But for some reason, a lot of us still think we're supposed to get sick. We're supposed to be in hospital. It is our journey to get cancer, to get that. It's not. So many diseases are preventable. We're not spending time knowing how to prevent them. And so my life's work is to continuously make sure that people understand that they have a large measure of control when it comes to their health, and that us as doctors are really facilitators of care. and that there's limits in science. As you can see, here's COVID-19. We couldn't fix it. Yeah. Not because we're not good at what we do. Viruses are a different monster. They spread differently, and there's a certain phase you have to wait until you're able to make sure that people have an immune system that can fight it. So I think when people are ready to own that they are responsible for their well-being, you get a better quality of life. And that's what keeps me going. I can never get tired, no matter what's happening in a business. I can never get tired of making sure that I'm making a difference in someone's life every day by what I teach, by the information I give them, and of course, by the quality of the message. I'm a scientist, so I make sure that I'm responsible in the information that I give. I'm not here just posting selfies and acting cute. People need knowledge that will really help them. And it is a problem. And I mean, I know you're laughing, but honestly, some doctors are losing the focus. And there's this fame element, and it's kind of getting us distracted from what are we here to do. And I've always known my purpose is to guide people towards a healthier state of life, of living. Beyond that, rather go home knowing that you've got someone who's got your back, but at the same time, you're starting to understand yourself in a way that you take more responsibility for what happens to you. And so I keep going because there's always someone who also says thank you. I did want to end on that. I think part of the thing about the journey I've had is I'm one of those lucky doctors. I have very vocal clients and patients, and I get rewarded by my quality of service being recognized purely with the thank you. I've had a lot of very happy clients, and it's always left me very, very thankful that I do the kind of work where I make a difference and someone says, thank you for being there for me when I needed it the most. And that's good enough for me.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. You inspire us to action. I like that. I like that. I like that. It's something that I saw as I was reading. It's called I don't know if it's your term or it's something that you also saw somewhere. Startuppreneur.
You've really researched. You've really researched me. So the startuppreneur, Zodwa, I never thought as a young medical student I'd ever become someone in business. And I think the story of being an entrepreneur in South Africa is not told enough, especially the beginning stage. The conversation around the 10,000 hours, it's like a secret club. We're very fearful of banding together to sort out what actually kills businesses. And I wrote a book 5 years ago called Rough Diamond. And I want to give a shout out to my publisher, Melinda, because Melinda Ferguson was one of those incredible publishers at the time who was very vocal about tell the story now. Let's not wait, when you're the multi-millionaire, or tell the story now. What is it like in this country to be a Black female young entrepreneur? What building blocks have helped you over the years? What challenges have you come across? I mean, one of the most important themes that I face as an entrepreneur still, even today, is this conversation around, cash flow cycles, client payments. Do you work with friends? Do you not work with friends? There's all these very interesting topics right at the beginning of building your business that if you don't have a circle that you can discuss with and you share, you actually miss the opportunity to learn. So when Rough Diamonds did better than we thought, especially in terms of the electronic version, I wasn't the best author in terms of promoting my book. I own that completely because I'm so private. But I think what I've enjoyed is people who've come back and give me feedback on the book really gave me feedback that was very constructive because they came back with, thank you for those insights. I made notes on your book. I changed this, I did that. And I wanted to write something that people could access. So over the years, then the nickname, Rough Diamond, everybody's been making a joke. Oh, are you still a rough diamond? Are you still rough? Are you polished now? I'm like,
really?
No. You know what? I'll always say to me, I'll be a rough diamond for life. I'm an underdog at heart. I never stop learning. So for me, that's what a rough diamond is. It's a diamond that's constantly evolving and being polished. It never gets to this final stage of looking perfect. And I don't try as an entrepreneur to be perfect, but what I do try and make sure is that there's progress. So the startuppreneur is the sensitizer to what's coming, because obviously Rough Diamond 2 is dropping next year, God willing. if I can actually finish it. But the Startuppreneur is a series that I'm doing with it, because I'm sitting and doing a round table and talking to entrepreneurs who are now accomplished. I mean, some of the names, I don't want to get people excited, but I might drop a Motsepe here and there. There are people we want to listen to as entrepreneurs who are trying to survive. And these people are not accessible. They're not always around. And so watch the space. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that series, but I'm cooking it quietly. And it's mentors that I've admired who've helped me stay the course and stay focused. And so what I'm bringing to the table with Startuppreneur is conversations with those people. And I'm hoping that the follower, the reader is going to get what they need to keep going, because we really have been hit hard. And there are people there who have done it before us, and we need that kind of inspiration, but we also need the truth.
Yeah.
We also need the truth
to go through, because they've paid the school fees. So we might as well just, read it. Okay. Are you able to give us timelines on when we can expect?
Oh my gosh, are you putting me on the spot? So the goal of Rough Diamond, the Startuppreneur, that's going to be the name of the second book. It's probably going to come out, I would say, I'm hoping September 2021.
All right. Okay. No, that's I can do this.
If I can manage to get all the people, because all the people in my life are super busy. So yeah, but I think people are going to enjoy listening to those voices because they've stood the test of time.
All right, absolutely. So you've touched on the issue of mentorship. You've had one of our darling golden ladies in South Africa, Sis Basi, as your mentor, eh?
Wow. Yes, I think part of the story was me obviously revealing that relationship, because we had done an article, I think the year before the book came out. So that was part of the inspiration, because Melinda then approached me to then write the story and have that as a backstory, a woman lifting another young woman. It's probably one of the most interesting journeys. It's funny because I was talking to one of my classmates about that, and he was asking me on the phone call, like, how did that even come about? You are in medicine, she's in business. Like, how did you two meet? I think one of the big things for me is that story reminds me as a young child, always, that you are always good enough to be on the same stage as people that you admire and respect, but you must have the courage and you must have a voice and you must ask for what you need. So I was fortunate that I got an opportunity when Mekumalo was in mining. She obviously then interacted with Uncle Patrice Gule, who obviously were in business together also at the time. And he then had her number from that. He knew, Gule knew how much I obviously loved her, and how the thing I loved about her is that she broke a glass ceiling. She transitioned from the stereotype people had, was she's just going to be this beauty queen. And she really taught herself to a large degree and studied and learned. She did the work to become the entrepreneur. She didn't just suddenly get deals. I mean, the stories I hear sometimes about her are really crazy. And I had really spent time trying to understand what is it about her that makes me want to be mentored by her. So I spent a year before I actually formally asked her to be my mentor. And what I really appreciated about her saying yes to me was I understood that she was nervous because I'm in medicine. And I mean, it's a completely different industry. And I think at that time, there was a lot of stereotypes or attitudes that, you should be mentored by someone who's in your field. You should be mentored. So the natural thing was, no, why aren't you choosing a doctor? I have doctors that I look up to that are amazing. Dr. Marlon McKay is my mentor in medicine. He's like a father to me. And he's amazing in that field. But I wanted to start understanding entrepreneurship. And she was a Black female entrepreneur who had fought her way to making a name for herself and worked hard for it. And I respected that, because there's a culture sometimes of, if you want your business to succeed, you must loosen your values. As I'm not even going to talk about it too much here. And what I loved about Mama Basi is she was the complete opposite. Your values, your integrity is all you have. And you rather struggle longer to get to your goal than sell yourself short. She had values that are understood, the values that were very similar to my own parents. And I think that's why I was, over time, literally I became like a child in her life. And the thing I love the most about my journey with her is we extremely value the different journeys that we both in terms of business. But what I absolutely also have to commend her for, she's got the capacity to raise and nurture so many human beings. And for me, that I think is part of the reason we've just stayed connected. It's just, we both have that thing for people. And I think we, as much as she, you know, I always tell people, she kicked me out of the nest a long time ago. But we, no, we enjoy each other's company. I mean, she's always been a champion for me. I think when I've gone through some of the toughest things in business, she's always the person I sit down with, and she reminds me, you know, one of the biggest topics that women go through is this thing about, do you do business with your friends? Because when something goes wrong in the business, the tendency often is it's your friends that actually blame you. People need a target, people need someone to blame. And the easiest thing is to then blur the lines of who we are outside the company and who we are in a company. I think one of the most powerful things Mama Basi was really important to me as a mentor was helping me understand that when you take those big hits, when people come at you for something that's going on in the business, your most important thing to do is to treat yourself with respect. Because if you've done everything you can, because things happen, if you've done everything you can, you must let it go. But you must also understand that people are human, and you must have a big enough heart to forgive, but not to allow people to violate your boundaries and violate your space. Obviously, I don't have to tell you how good she is at protecting her space and her peace. But when, you know, you must understand when it's justified, when it's not. So she taught me a sense of self-worth that I've never been able to unlearn. And I'm very grateful for her, because I'm one of those people. I think sometimes when you do have a big heart, you're trying to fix things for everybody. And sometimes you just can't. And you beat up on yourself, because as entrepreneurs, when things go wrong, you do take a lot of personal responsibility. You're trying to fix everything, and sometimes you can't. And you cannot. One of the most powerful things she taught me, and I want to share this with you. She said, people will have an opinion about you whether you do good. People will have an opinion about you whether you do bad. The most important thing is you need to hold yourself with integrity and be able to face yourself every night and ask yourself, have I done the very best I can? And in the situations that life throws at you, if the answer is yes, whether or not those people stay in your life or don't, if you've done your best, keep it moving. That's one of her favorite, keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving, girl. I love that. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So I'm sure you've also paid it forward. Do you have someone or some people or young ladies that you're mentoring at the moment?
Yes. I'm quite private about my mentorship space, mainly because, you know, when you get requests and then people say, but you didn't say yes to me. Now you're busy shouting out your mentees. I'm feeling left out. I think being on social media has been very tough for me, because as I was saying, I've got that kind of heart. You try to help everyone, but there's not enough of you. So I've definitely focused a lot more on two main fields with my mentorship. I focus on medicine. So I mentor a lot of individuals who are in medicine. So whether it's doctors, whether it's pharmacists, wherever they're at, especially when they have an entrepreneurial focus. You know, my experience now is more than 10 years. I've been in the industry. I know what sharks look like. I know what it's like when people shy you, and you know the real thing. So a lot of these individuals, I give them real life experience, and then just strategies, because those first 3-5 years are the hardest, you know, and you're doing them mostly alone. You have a lot of exits. These are things that you don't get in a textbook. You know, you go through all these things as a young entrepreneur, and they can change you. They can scare you into leaving the industry. So I focus a lot on real life scenarios and how to troubleshoot challenges as they come, and how to shape who you're going to be as a business leader. And then, of course, I'm very interested in the arts. So I've got about three youngsters who are in the arts, whether it's visual arts like photography, videography, and then, of course, if it's things like, you know, fashion, beauty. I've got that kind of creative brain. So I also mentor kids in the arts.
Okay, all right, amazing, lovely, lovely. Lucky them. Let's go to our Facebook page and see if we've got any comments. You are live, we are live on Facebook. So let me see if we've got any questions or comments for you, Dr. G. Okay, I think it's a comment from Mabwe, but now the sad reality is that most SMMEs are barely hanging on due to COVID-19 lockdown and restrictions. Hence, they have serious cash flow problems. This makes it difficult for them to decide between spending on wellness and spending on production costs. I think it goes back to that question about what small businesses can do currently.
100%. Look, I think one of the things that has been important, as healthcare service providers, one of the things, for example, we're very open to is payment terms that work for an SMME owner. It's easy to hide behind the problem as an owner and not still try and find a solution. And one of the things I've always been good at as a medical advisor is, well, what's the plan? What's the budget? At some point, there must be a conversation around when can you pay? I'm not a doctor who closes the door completely on, oh, if you can't afford it, then it doesn't mean it's not important. What's the plan? Because businesses that are in trouble recover slowly, but they do recover. And every business owner who's responsible will pick up the phone, will email and say, this is what I can do. Can you guys come? And over time, can I then sort you out like this? I think the problem is we stay in the problem area. We go, we're barely surviving, we can't afford it. I say, but healthcare is still important. So how about we make a plan? You get the help, and we work out on how the payment's gonna go. Not getting the help for me is not a good enough excuse. It's not a good enough, because people's lives are at risk. So you might be chasing production costs, etc. But if your business ends up being shut down because you neglected the health part, what was it all for? And that's the critical question.
That's the critical question. I agree. That's the critical question. I agree. So I see here that you were a top 100 international inspirational women in 2015. And of course, you're the best selling author for Rough Diamond 2015, according to Exclusive Books. This is good. And then top 100 to Mzansi Innovators in 2017. Yeah? How did this come about?
Zodwa, you know what I've learned? I think there's a secret club. This is my new conclusion. There's a secret club of clients, people, friends, because you just get a phone call. Dr. G, I've been struggling to get a hold of you. I'm very private. So I think that's the first thing a lot of people know about me, as much as I've had to be on social media. And I've been on social media now for 3 years straight, which for me is an achievement. Wow.
Well done.
Because I'm not a fan of social media, but I've warmed up to people insisting, like, we want your voice, come papella us on social media. And I think because the work that I do is about making people feel better, etc. I think people over the years have found it necessary, I guess, to approach these publications, because we don't even know what's coming out. There's Mail and Guardian, what top 20. And for me, I think because I live in a bubble where I always say I live in my wellness cave. My wellness cave is where I sit and I design solutions. I go out there and I help, and then I come back home. By the time you get a phone call, oh, you're gonna be in the top 100. You're just like, what is a top 100? But I'll tell you this. When the moments do happen, when someone says, I have valued what you've done in my life, in my company, etc., and I think you are worthy of a recognition, the one thing I've learned over the years is to embrace the recognition. My father really talked to me about that, because I struggle with that. I struggle with receiving thank yous. It's such a strange thing about me, but he always says, you think it's a natural part of you to be the person you are, but it's actually not. I remember when he sat me down after I graduated, and he said, the kind of doctor you are going to be might be a struggle for a lot of other people, because you give and you're not even aware how much you give. And it might need you to design a space for yourself, because you also need to be free as a doctor. He always knew. My father was the first smart guy. He was like, this one, she's not going to cope with being an employee. This one's always going to have ideas. She's going to challenge authority. So I think the innovation part, I have to say, of the three, I really appreciated the innovation one, because I feel that the strength I didn't know I had, or the talent I didn't know I had outside of just medicine, was I'm creative. And being able to have designed 5 business units, in a space of 3 years, that have all been tested, work, and are now just finding their wings, so to speak. I didn't know I could design things. I didn't know I could put a different way of delivering healthcare. I didn't know I was a funny speaker. So it's all these things of, I love to create as much as I love to serve. Yeah. And so when I was given that one, that was a big one for me, because I was like, I'm officially being recognized as a pioneer. Yes, we love those words. Yo, the big English. Oh, we want the big English in our lives, guys. So I was like, Maru, get Steve Jobs were wellness. Get Steve Jobs.
Yeah, you've done absolutely amazingly well. But now, do you actually even have fun? Like, I mean, when just now, like other children.
How am I?
What do you do for that?
You know what? Number one, I love a good gathering with friends. As I was saying, I'm an introvert in most spaces, ne? But with my friends and family, like nguma papios. No, but with my close friends and family, nguma papios.
So introverted, extroverted.
Girl, get groovist mina. Ask my family. Me, I know how to. Me, I know. Me, you can't outdance me on the dance floor. Go rough. So I love hanging out with friends and family. We get up to mischief. It's always a lot of fun. I love those spaces. I prefer that to going clubbing and stuff. So I enjoy hanging out with my peeps, and we have a good time. I love hiking. I love taking walks. I'm a big walker. I think because Uma has walked for the last 10 years of our life every single day as a way of getting fit. She's an amazing wellness inspiration for me. And she got me to fall in love with walking, because she walks for hours. She has got so much energy. And I love music. I love reading. I'm a typical nerd in how I spend my time, but quality time. Like when I'm relaxing, it's quality time, whether it's a lazy Sunday, listening to music, it's trying out a new dish, Tati walk. I love spending time with people, and I love spending time with myself.
With yourself. Okay. You even cook. Yeah. Wow, that's great.
Yes, girl. Hashem, me. Ungabi stressed. Future husband, ungabi stressed.
Yeah,
if I decide.
If you're watching us later on YouTube, hello, you can connect me.
I'm putting my blind date when I thought.
You never know. So if you were not doing this, what would you be doing? If you
oh
were
my
not
gosh,
doing what
I've asked myself this. I think now that I've discovered my creative side, I think I would have been a musician. I know it sounds terrible, but not a musician. Do you know I've played piano for most of my life?
All right.
So I played piano for 21 years. I think I would have been one of these orchestra. Yeah, violin, piano. I'm in love with classical music. I love jazz. I've just recently started to learn guitar, so that's been an interesting thing. I love instruments, so I think I would have been one of these very weird children that love music and go overseas and playing these concerts, and the parents are always stressing, I would have probably gone overseas if I'd raised the money and gone studied. Yeah, all these artistic kids. I honestly think if I didn't do medicine, I would have done music. I always joke. I even joke that I'm a medic muso. I always say that because I love music. I love creating it. I love listening to it.
I love Usispoku no put Mangisi for insisting that you must go to a medical school. Hey, I can see you good ngempela. So we really would like to send a shout out to the parents, to the Rens, as we are called these days.
Oh, you're liking the nickname. Yeah, I love that nickname for you guys. I see the rents. It's a perfect, these new kids, they are keeping us relevant, guys.
I know.
Very relevant. Very relevant.
All right. What's the, I'm just trying to say, like, what is the main thing that you would like to tell us, Njena, about managing ourselves during this pandemic? I mean, you say, I thought it would be just 2021, come another year, and you're like 3 years, and I'm like, oh, wait, ma, what's going to happen to me?
I think the first thing, Zodwa, is what are you prepared to do to look after yourself and those you love? With wellness, I always start at the basics, because right now there are big debates happening everywhere. And one of the biggest debates I've had to talk to people about a lot is this concept of iphela nini COVID. Human beings are fascinating, because you guys, it's like health things are an inconvenience. Like, okay, so now we've behaved for 7 months. So now when is it finishing? So we can go back to our lives. And the thing is, because it's a virus, the first thing that's always been my job as a doctor, a COVID doctor who's spoken a lot of forums on the media and corporates about this, it's personal responsibility. And you can't run away from that. The festive season is coming up, and we were having a conversation earlier about that, to say, so many people are now so depressed about not seeing their families. They're starting to be willing to take risks for December. They're going to go visit their families without going through the steps of being responsible. And being responsible and loving now includes health, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. If you are not being responsible when you're out there and you're not wearing your mask, and then you're going home and your mom or dad or grandmother, God forbid, gets COVID, they don't have the same body you do to fight it. They don't have the same immune system you do to fight it. And we all know that this particular disease affects the lungs, the heart, the brain, etc. It causes complications in people over 60. I mean, we've got one of the best ministers who's been trying to educate the public every day. I've never seen a minister be on social media as much as Dr. Zweli Mkhize. And we keep saying to the public, it is now in your hands. At the end of the day, your health, your well-being is now in your hands. I would hate to see a lot of people lose their family members this festive season because they've chosen to be reckless because sebekhathele COVID. And it's that attitude that has worried me the most. When you say, what message do I want to leave? Reflect on what is for you an act of love right now. And being responsible is an act of love. Being safe is an act of love. And talking as a family about, is it a good idea for us to get together in December? What precautions do we need to take? What is our plan if one of us falls ill? That's responsible, loving behavior now. And that's really the message I want to give people is the pandemic phase eventually is going to end and COVID's going to become like the flu, something we found a solution for and it's fine. But while it's in the stage where it's causing a lot of people to lose loved ones, please sit and reflect on the role you are playing in that conversation. Because I would hate for people to have to reflect at the end of December and their loved ones have passed on and they know they might have played a role in creating that situation. We don't need to be irresponsible right now, but we mustn't run from the consequence of being irresponsible. And that's just where we're at. Every single person now has a role to play in how COVID continues in our country, whether you want to admit it or not, because it spreads here. Yeah. So if we're suddenly undoing the work of the last 6-7 months, I'll be very sad. But I continue to be a doctor who will continue to treat COVID patients. I treat and counsel families around COVID and in general health and wellness issues. This is the best time for us to show that we love each other, guys, by being responsible and acting in a way that is not just about us, but about everybody in the family.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have to be responsible and keep safe. It is an act of love. I know, It's a bit tough. Let's go back to our Facebook page and see if we've got any other comments. See there, Unomvula says, great, thanks for sharing. And of course, unokwazi Chongo, well done, Dr. G, Innovative Health and Wellness Solutions. All right, all right. Can we, are you able to share your social media handles for those that would like to?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm on a break at the moment, but obviously there's enough content for days, as the young kids say. I'm a very busy person online. So I knew that even if I take a break, you see, I practice what I preach. On Facebook, if they follow Tshidi Gule, so TSHIDI, Gule, Gule. On Instagram, you can follow at Dr. Gule _ So it's DRGULE _. And then on Twitter, it's at Dr. G.
At Dr. G. And of course, if I want to connect directly with the company, Legulo.
Okay. So you just you can email us at info@legulo.africa. So if you are trying to get hold of me, obviously when you send that email, you just let them know you're trying to get hold of Dr. Gule for a specific thing. But yeah, anything company related, they can email info@legulo.africa.
All right. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. G. What an exciting conversation. And of course, I look forward to reading your next book. I think it's going to be exciting. And if I'm lucky enough to be in the inner circle,
I don't worry, girl. Yo, 2021, I'm coming. 2021, yo, he's on Shaya Ding Dong on social media. The artist. I'm still coming up with my artist name. Pela, these things, you must create the whole package. I need to say, hey, these Instagram kids, you have to match their quality.
On that note of matching the Instagram kids and their quality, allow me to say thank you so much, Dr. G, and we'd like to wish you everything of the best, and we really love you.
Thank you so much.
There's still more. I mean, like, there's more. This is the thing when you are, it's when it's a calling, you just flow. You are flowing, and I believe that God is still going to reveal more, and you're going to be blessing us more with the music, as it were, but I think even more so on the healthcare side, health and wellness, because I believe that health and wellness is really going to be a big thing going forward, not just in South Africa, not just in Africa, but in the globe, as it were. All right. Thank you so
much. Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys. Look after yourself during festive season. Hey, like that's a big thing for me, for everyone. Look after yourselves in festive season. I need to see you guys next year.
I need to hear that. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Mrs. Busi Shabalala, our executive producer, and the whole team at EconoThrive Global. And of course, we will be seeing you again on Thursday afternoon on our main Thriving in Abundance talk, where we're looking at spiritually related matters. Gamalami Nguzodwa Msimang Kansibande signing off.